Hello, today we are going to start covering Chapter 8 called Rational Functions. And 8.1 is direct inverse and joint variation. So you guys will be able to recognize and use each of these types. So direct variation is where we will start. This is when y equals a times x. Basically, if you write it in words, it says y varies directly with x. Inverse variation is when y equals a divided by x. This is when y varies inversely with x. And then joint variation, we add a z, so we have z equals a times x times y. And this is z varies jointly with x and y. Now, this probably doesn't make too much sense so far because we just have 3 different equations, but we'll see how each of these works. So our next row, we're going to just do our direct variation here. We need to write a direct variation equation relating x and y. So we are going to use this equation, plug in x and y that we are given to solve for a, and then we have our direct variation equation. So we have y equals a times x, which is 8 equals a times negative 4. Solve for a, and we get a equals 2, and then plug that in. So our direct variation equation is y equals to negative 2, x, sorry. There we go. Okay, now, our next box, it says find the value of y when x equals 12. So we have our direct variation equation that we can just plug x equals 12 into. And then solve for y. Okay? So we have our direct variation equation. We have our y equals based on that. We can do the same thing with inverse variation. We want to write an inverse variation equation relating x and y when x is 4, y is 7. So we can go ahead and say y equals a divided by x. This is inverse variation. Plug in information, 7 equals a over 4, solve for a, we get a is equal to 28, so our inverse variation equation is y equals 28 over x. And then to solve for y, you just plug in negative 2 for x down here. So you get that y is equal to negative 14. Okay? And then to write a joint variation equation, we are actually given x, y, and z. You just plug that in to solve for a, to our joint variation equation. So a equals 7 over 2, or you can write that as 3.5. So our joint variation equation is z equals 7 over 2 times x times y. All right, and then find the value of z when x is negative 2 and y is 5. We just plug that in to find z. I'm going to go ahead and reduce my 2 and my over 2. It was a negative 2, so it becomes negative 1. So we get z equals 7 times negative 1 times 5, or z equals negative 35. Okay, so hopefully that's easy enough. You will sometimes have to decide if given a set of numbers if it is direct variation or inverse variation. So I'm going to show you, based on a set of numbers, how you check for each one of these. Okay? So say we have the set of numbers x and y. Say x's are 3, 5, 7, and 9. Y's are 6, 10, 14, and 18. To check to see if this is direct variation, you need to solve the direct variation equation for A. If A is the same for all of these, when you take y divided by x, then you know that it is direct variation. Okay, so we have A equals y divided by x. We can check these. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 14 divided by 7 is 2. 18 divided by 9 is 2. So these are all the same. This means it is direct variation. Okay? So notice the direct variation equation is actually multiplied, but to check to see if it's direct variation, you divide y divided by x. For inverse variation, you do something similar. You take what you are given, or what your inverse variation equation is, and solve for A. This means to check for inverse variation, the A's must all be the same when x is multiplied by y. Notice once again, the inverse variation equation is division. To check, it is multiplication. So say we have another set of numbers. X's are 0.25, 0.5, and 0.75, and Y's are negative 12, negative 6, and negative 4. This time you just multiply them. We get negative 3. We get negative 3. And we get negative 3. So this is inverse variation. I do want to point out that it could be neither. You might have to try both this way, where you divide, and this way where you multiply. And if neither of them give you the same numbers for all of it, it would be neither type of variation. So just keep that in mind. It could be direct variation, it could be inverse variation, it could be neither types of variation. So you might have to do more than one trial to decide. All right, that is 8.1. Have a great afternoon.